The village of Napaskiak is about 12 miles downriver, maybe 10 miles down from river from Bethel on the Kuskokwim River. It is isolated by the river and the tundra. The only ways you can get there are by boat, airplane, and by swimming. You can get there by truck in the wintertime when the river's frozen. But no, it's an isolated village in the sense that once you get there, if it's during the summertime, they travel around the village by four-wheelers on the boardwalks and by snow machine in the wintertime. There's no roads, there is no highway to it. It's just the mighty Cusco and the great wide open sky.
The hardest part about being a principal in the bush is the loneliness. They're out there alone. They have really not many people they can call up and ask, how do we deal with this or how do we deal with that? Somebody that comes from the lower 48, you come out there and it's, wow, what did I get myself into? And I guess we can help them from the standpoint that we can assure them that it's doable. It's doable. Hundreds have done it before and hundreds are doing it today. And it's okay. It's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to feel that you're left out here on an island, which I have two principals that are out on islands in the Bering Sea, and that's okay. You can feel that way. So I guess we give them that safety net or something, whatever you might want to call it.
Good morning. How's everybody doing? Welcome. For a lot of principals who might have been trained 15 to 20 years ago, there wasn't the expectation of changing the culture of the school so all kids could learn. You'll need a support system as a school leader, and there's nothing lonelier than a principalship. Try an assistant superintendency or superintendency, they're pretty lonely too. The old role was one of a manager. There's kind of this unspoken expectation that the teachers kind of teach and you kind of administrate, and everything's really great as long as everybody stays in their little, domain. Well, being an instructional leader requires principals to address teaching and learning, engage teachers, give feedback, and so we've changed the rules of the game. We really have. And in some ways, it probably wasn't fair because we didn't provide the resources and the professional development for people to accommodate the expectations. Schools really can't get led unless there's talented leadership in the office. Okay, it's one of the key components. So that's one of the reasons we're here, to support you. We initially had a program and we had some consultants help us, and that was okay, but we decided to kind of go on our own and develop our own materials and our own methods to address some of the unique things about Alaska.
Our program, Alaska Administrator Coaching Program, is not really about a canned program. We have to adapt to Alaska. Alaska is unique. It's very different. It's very diverse. In most states you have rural and city. In Alaska you have city, rural, and bush. And we want our principals to stay a long enough time to make a difference.
A coach is assigned to about 8 or 9 new principals, and they make a couple site visits a year. The principals come into Anchorage, our major hub, 3 times a year for what we call institutes, and we work on the tools and the materials we have. And then the coaches call them at least twice a month, sometimes more frequently, and establish a relationship and the ability to have conversations and give feedback.
We don't tell the principals what to do. We try to facilitate their thinking in how to solve problems, and we try to give them tools for doing that.
We think it's really important for a coaching relationship that you know with confidence that your coach is your support person and they don't share information in your discussions. The first year is the typical, you probably heard the cliche, drinking through the fire hose. And we're doing our first institute, and we see a lot of very wide-eyed people thinking, what have I done?
It takes them a while, just trying to realize what's really important to do and what's not quite as important. They just have a hard time sorting through that concept. One of our coaches last year called that the big stuff and the little stuff.
Because they are, during that first year, so overwhelmed with the paper until it burns them, and that's what we want to prevent. We want to work with them to learn to balance their work day and to step aside and balance their whole lives too. That's really important.
If you talk honestly about being a principal in your first year, you survive the first year. That's what a lot of folks, that's how it's described, I think, and what we hopefully do is allow them to have an experience that's more than survive.
You know, having lived in Alaska for a long time and having lived in Bethel, I didn't apply for the principal job initially. I knew that a principal position was all-consuming. Where are you guys all going? We're getting our pumpkins. So the district recruited, and they were unable to find somebody from Alaska or experienced in Alaska, so ended up getting somebody who had retired from a job, you know, elsewhere in Minnesota, who came up and really was quite surprised at what was expected and how different jobs are here. You know, he was more used to a very narrow role of the principal, and here you do everything.
What's the policy on staff and lice?
Bethel is in southwest Alaska. We are roughly about 100 miles from the Bering Sea, about halfway up the west coast. We're just north of Bristol Bay. We're in the lower half of the Kuskokwim School District, which is, people don't realize, is roughly the size of the state of Vermont.
To become an instructional leader is difficult for many of the people that come out here, particularly those who come out from the lower 48 who aren't used to the other challenges.
Having somebody like Peter Kokas to just bounce ideas off of somebody that had been in LKSD and understood LKSD.
I had to work on my house this weekend. It's the only weekend I had.
Every time a principal signs his contract that he's coming back is a major success story, I think. It's part of our mission statement to create a group of principals that'll come back.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, as a teacher, going to something like administration, it is a huge change.
And, how are you? Eating some applesauce?
And it can easily become a paperwork job, but part of the coaching project is they really help us keep the kids first.
It looks cool. Being the building administrator is a lonely job. Other teachers are confiding in you, kids are confiding in you, teachers are confiding in you, so you have all this information that it's nice to have a network of people that you can call on.
And after we have maybe a coaching conversation face-to-face or been in the building, and they've reached a solution that has really worked and will be long-standing, that's what it's all about. It's for them, and for them to become a stronger leader in their schools, and we're helping to build that foundation through this project.
See you later. Have a good afternoon.
I guess the biggest challenge, especially starting out in this job, is just learning how to manage all the different hats that you have to wear. And I had to learn, and I'm much better now, and I'm still learning how to share the management responsibilities so that I can focus on what my main responsibilities are.
I've been very fortunate because I'm close to the coaches out here where we're working, and so I can drive and I can go see them. If you're in rural Alaska, that's a different world because that person is the person that's on point all the time.
The biggest challenge for anybody getting off the plane and getting onto the soil is acclimation.
Okay, welcome. You're the mayor of this. You're the mayor of Tulisak, and I was like, what does that mean? It's like, well, you have a $41 million building. You have plumbing. You have water. You have a kitchen. You have food. You have all these things that the rest of the village doesn't have.
If you're going to work in Bush, Alaska, you better be willing to maybe have to go out and measure the tanks for the fuel, see what they are, report them. You might have to do the fueling for the school or for the housing.
It's challenging. It's a lot. You wear a lot of different hats. You know, any given day, your maintenance person might not be there to drive the boat.
And there's no roads. There's no go hop on the bus and take a ride down to the museum.
We pick up about 8 kids every morning by boat or by snow machine.
You become a maintenance person. Sometimes you're a custodian.
And you know, I inherited a dog team. I love dogs. I'm not about to go out there in 25 below and mush nobody.
You are going to go through some cultural shock.
A lot of kids that, you know, drive their own snow machine to school or their own four-wheeler.
And I'm learning all about these dogs, and you know, you have to learn about their health, and you learn how dogs are important to this culture, and you're like,
there's no strip malls, there's no movie halls, there's no zoos. I mean, but we do have wildlife, and as much as it is a limitation, it's also an opportunity to explore, because those are experiences other kids don't have.
There's about 125 schools in Alaska that have 25 or fewer students. And many of those schools are not connected to the road system. And typically in Alaska, those are called bush communities versus rural or urban. And probably about 70% of our new principals in our state, in our program, are in that type of environment.
Napaskiak has, I'm going to guess, about 500 or 600 people, and it has about 120, 130 students, K-12. They're about 120% capacity. They're packed in there. The building's old. They're in desperate need of a new school.
And so you have principals who may be trained in the lower 48 states, one of them, in a traditional program, now find themselves in a village of 200 people with a school.
They know they're going to be a landlord. They know they're going to have a power plant that they're responsible for. They know they're going to have a water system that they're going to have to take care of. These are all things that you'd have a city manager doing. The principal does it in these cases.
And they're living in the fishbowl. I mean, they're in the village 24/7.